Hello everyone and welcome to another one of our GL assessment maths lessons. So this is lesson number 4 for year 5 block 6. We're in the second week, week number 2, and my name is Luke Lloyd. Right guys, today we've got something quite interesting for you. So what we're going to be doing is essentially an assessment. Now it's just assessment practice. So before we begin, I need you to get some things out for me. We're going to be using this book here, or this little folder. It's not quite a book. If you try and open it up, you'll see it's got a little Velcro peel. And in there are some maths assessments. We're going to need two things. One will be practice paper 1. So you hopefully can see here. That's the paper we're going to be completing together, practice paper 1. But we're going to need to have the practice paper 1 answer sheet. And it's really important that you guys find the correct one. So could we all take a moment now, please, to open this up, have a little look, flick through. You'll see there's about, I think, 3 practice papers, practice paper 1, practice paper 2, practice paper 3. Make sure you've gotten the first one out, and it says in the top left, practice paper 1. And then at the very back, you'll see there's a small booklet that's called answer sheets. And in those answer sheets, you'll find the maths practice paper 1 answer sheet that looks like this one here. And get those out. And really, I'd suggest maybe perhaps if you need to, you can pause the video before we move on to make sure you've got those two things out. So we'll need practice paper 1, both the questions and the answer sheet. Right, hopefully that you've got that out now. What we're going to be doing today, essentially, guys, is going through the assessment. You'll complete the assessment, and then we'll review it together. But before I let you guys begin the assessment, I do want to talk to you a few things, a little bit about how we utilize these sheets efficiently and properly. I think that's really important. We all know exactly how to use them. So we'll talk a bit about that. And again, the majority of the session will be 25 minutes of you working through it, and then we're going to cover and review the questions together for the remaining 20 minutes or so. So again, this is the book. Now, before I let you guys start, and remember, of course, you'll need a timer so that you can do this to time, I just want to talk to you a little bit about these answer sheets. So obviously, for our purposes, you can fill in the name and the unique numbers. These are bits of information that you might not have at the moment, but you will have before you enroll. So I'm sure you know you're at the date of testing your birthday. That's fine. For today, I'm not really worried. You're welcome to fill them in if you want to, but the primary thing really is just your name to make sure that you know what's what and what's where. Now, looking specifically about how we're going to be filling these in, I just want to make really clear how you need to go about answering these. These tests are marked by computer. They're marked by scanner. And what the computer is going to be doing is going to be really carefully looking at each of these individual boxes to see, is there anything inside them? What that means is a nice thick mark like that, so I thought the answer was 10, is going to be picked up really easily by the computer. And the computer's going to say, right, they think it's 10, and if it's correct, they'll give you the mark, and if it isn't, they won't. The problem is if you make a mistake, for example, and cross out question 10, and then go say, no, I don't think it's 10, I think it's 25, what's the computer going to see now? Now, with my eyes, I can see that, you've crossed out one and marked the other, but the computer's just going to say, well, there's a black mark in 10 in that box, and there's a black mark in 25. They've been cheeky, they've tried to answer 2 questions, big error, no marks. That's what we would call a multi-mark error. The computer won't give it to you. So even though as a human I know what you mean, the computer will just think that you've put your answer in multiple spaces. And of course, if the computer let that happen, what you'd do is you'd just put an answer in every space, and then you'd get the marks, and it'd be a way to cheat the system. That's why they don't allow these multi-marks. That means if you make a mistake, you have to be really careful about rubbing it out. So there's nothing in that space so the computer can't see it, to avoid these horrible multi-mark problems. Other things that are worth noting. As well as having a multi-mark, if you do a line that's too fine, and it's quite hard for me to draw on here, but let's say we went to the finest thing. If you did a line that, hardly filled the box, so you can see that one there, it's going to, although it is in the box, there's quite a lot of empty space, it's possible that the scanner might not pick that up so easily. Because what it's looking for is it's looking for not white, not that empty space. So if you're not, really carefully filling with a nice neat line and pressing reasonably hard, so it's a thick line, there's a chance of it being missed. So you want to really, my advice is to try and, you almost want a slightly blunt pencil for this. It's a bit unusual. It's very rare that I'll say that. But to try and nicely fill the box, nice and horizontal, so that you can't see very much white at all. A tiny bit's okay, but you certainly want it to be more filled in than not. I think that's really important. Because again, the clarity is really key. And certainly I know when we run things through our answers, students who scribble and things, it goes really poorly. And I've a number of times I've seen students do this, for example, where they've scribbled and it's covered multiple spaces. And although it's not the case so much on this answer sheet, I've seen before where they've got answer boxes that are quite close to each other. So, the boxes look like this, and they've been a bit careless, and they've said the answer to the first one is K, but they've kept the line going, and it's now smudged into the next row next to it. And so they've managed to do a multi-mark on the other question by being a bit overzealous. So I can't reiterate how important it is to keep this really careful. Other rules as well that I'll add in: please don't do any working, any drawing, anything on here that runs the risk of getting in the way. With the possible exception, the only thing I might allow is if you've skipped a question. So if you're working through, you've done question 1, you've done question 2, you've done question 3, but you've left question 4, you might just want to do a little mark, a little dot, right the way perhaps on the question number. So again, the reason I've picked that red spot is that's definitely nowhere near anything white, nothing that the computer will be looking for. And the reason I do that dot there is just to indicate I've skipped this. And now I know I'm going to carry on marking these, carry on answering, but now I know to come back here. And the reason that's important is, again, I've seen students make this mistake before. They'll have skipped an answer, so they'll have skipped 4. They'll now put the answer to number 5 in, but they'll put it in the number 4 slot. And that then means all their answers now are out of whack. All their answers are moved over by 1. And again, that's really damaging because it means now everything from that error point is incorrect. And because that's such a high risk and such a devastating thing to happen, and we do encourage you to skip ahead and not stay on questions that you're stuck on, that's why I would encourage you to just make a small mark on the answer sheet, but a very small one that's definitely nowhere near the question answering portion, just to indicate, yeah, I have skipped this question. So normal, maybe a small star, because I often say in my lessons, I do a little star. And I would have a complementary mark on the actual question book. So for example, on the questions here, I'd star the pages I'd skipped if I had skipped them as well. Right, guys, that's a lot of talking, and I realise it is, but I thought it was important just to go over, because the last thing I want is people making mistakes. Now, we're going to go back to this screen here. So again, what do you need to have ready? You need to have, obviously, within this book, you found this sheet and the complementary questions. You'll know the first question is correct, because if I open practice paper 1, the first question, I don't mind telling you, is about favourite juice flavours, and it's a pictogram. And again, just looking at this list here, these are some of the key topics that are covered, and these are the ones that in particular I'm going to sort of emphasise when we go through our explanations. Right, guys, so what you're going to need to continue, we're nearly ready to begin. A 25-minute timer, please. I'm not going to have this video play for 25 minutes because I'm sure you guys are able to find a clock or a timer. And if you do need one and you can't find one, perhaps you've got access to the internet, you could always open another YouTube video that just is called 25 minutes timer. If you type that in, I'm sure you'd get something that you could use. Complete as best you can in 25 minutes. It's quite a long test. There's quite a lot in there. And then obviously pause the video and come back, and then when it's finished, ready to explain. If after 25 minutes up you've not finished, what you might want to do is in a different coloured pen, or in a way that clearly marks it as not part of the full 25 minutes, you might want to still go back and try the questions that you didn't get to with some extra time, as long as you then realise to give yourself 2 separate scores, a 25-minute score and then an infinite time score. And the reason I'd encourage you to do that is so that you still get the practice opportunity of those questions. It could be a real shame, if you had questions that you just didn't get access or didn't practice because of the time limit. So use the time limit to judge where you're at in terms of how much time you've been spending on it, but also then please do go back before checking the answers. Do go back in and have a go at all the questions. And sorry, everyone, I just want to make this extra clear because I think I skipped over it a little bit quickly. We are only doing the first 25 questions. So that's 1 minute per question. So it's only questions 1 to 25. I'm just going to really reiterate that clearly because this is a 50-minute paper and we're basically doing half today, and that will give us the entire half the lesson to go through it. Obviously, if you do the whole assessment in one go, one, you'll be eating into future content, but also means there'll be no time within the hour for us to go through it. So we're only doing the first 25 questions in those first 25 minutes. Right, everyone, I think that's more than enough time talking. Thank you so much for paying attention. I really appreciate it. 25 minutes on the clock, and I will see you back here in just a moment. Right, off you go. Pause the video now. Right, everyone, so here is a quick version of the answers. Of course, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through every question in order with the answers there, and we'll go through and we'll just show the working, and that means you can obviously follow along. But if you wanted a quick version on your screen, quick visuals, this is how it should look. Obviously, look, I've left 26 blank because we're only doing the first 25 questions. Again, I haven't bothered filling out the name there, but of course, you put your own in. Let's get into it. I mean, again, if you want to see this, if this is useful to you, if this sort of visual aid here helps, what I suggest doing is pausing the video here and using that. Otherwise, we'll go through the questions together and we can look out for the ones that are challenging. Let's make a start. So this is a pictogram. Ooh, the important thing to note with the pictograms is, of course, to find the key. The key says that 1 cup is worth 5.5. Sorry, 1 cup is worth 10, and a half cup is worth 5. And again, how many people like pineapple? So immediately I could head straight to the pineapple. I'm not going to bother working out the rest because pineapple is the only one that matters, and that is a 10 and a 5 to make it 15. And whenever I'm given a grid like this, I like to use the grid to structure my questions. And so I'm going to draw over, so 10 over the 10, 5 over the 5, and then come up with a total. And if I needed to do more, for example, I was working out mean, I'd work out to each row to keep things nice and organized. But in this case, nice and simple, 15. Question 2. There are 360 children at Hilltop School, 246, the rest travel by bus or car. How many children travel by bus? So again, this is finding the difference. Remember, the difference in maths means we're taking away. So we need to do 360, which is the total, take away 262. I will go through and show you the method because it's important to have that nailed down. Again, I want to do 0 units, take away 2. I can't do that, so I borrow from the tens, making that 50, but now I've got 1 10 to borrow. So I can say 10 take away 2, and that's going to give me 8. I want to do 5 take away 6, or rather, sorry, 50 take away 60, if I'm being really precise, because of course this is in the tens column. I can't do 50 take away 60, so I have to borrow from the hundreds. So that 300 becomes 200, but now I have 150. I can do 150 take away 60, which gives me 90, which is why there's a 9 in the tens column, and 200 take away 200 is gone. So final answer, 98. Question 3. Which container will hold about 5 litres? Guys, this is an estimation. I suggest as part of your revision, working out or having a little Google, at what volume, on average, would each of these containers hold? Now, in this case, the answer is a bucket. This is more of a life experience question, but they do come up. They do come up. So again, I would try and work out in a teapot roughly how much water is that. I would say that's probably about 1 litre to 2 litres for a teapot. A bucket, as I say, is about 5 litres, quite big. A milk bottle is 1 pint, or about, if we're doing it in litres, it's about 3/4 of a litre, or a pint. A teacup, difficult. I would say probably to fill a litre, you're looking about maybe a fifth of a litre, 1/5 of a litre approximately. And if we're going to turn that into units, that's about 200 millilitres. And then a teaspoon is probably more like 5 millilitres to 10 millilitres, something along those lines. Depends on your teaspoon, of course. 5 to 10 millilitres. Maybe even a bit smaller, maybe somewhere between 2 and 10 if I might change that, give myself a slightly bigger range. Now, of course, you didn't need to know these for now, but it's just worth familiarising yourself because I think this is the kind of thing that can come up in the future. And of course, next time they might say, I'll be asking you about the teacup, for example. I would suggest you do a similar thing, a similar exercise, maybe it's a bit of homework for you all, for weight as well. So it would be worth knowing, describe something that weighs 1 tonne, 1 kilogram, 10 kilograms, 1 gram, 10 grams. Just come up with some examples for each weight, just so you can really visualize in your head how much each weighs. It's really useful. Not least, because it's especially useful for these questions, but also a lot of maths questions will end up giving you some kind of context. And it's really useful to be able to picture in your mind if you've come up with an answer that's incredibly unrealistic. You know, if for example, you said an elephant weighed a ton, I'd think, oh yeah, that makes sense. But if you said an elephant weighed 2 grams, you might think, are you sure? That seems a bit suspicious. Or similarly, if an elephant weighed 100 tons, you probably think that you should be able to know that that's a bit unrealistic and likely indicative of a mistake. Right, number 4. So if 53 children went on a school trip, twice as many. So we need to do 53 times 2, and whatever answer that is will be times 2 again. So whatever that is goes in there. So 53 times 2, that's 6 times 2, sorry, 3 times 2, which is 6, and then 50 times 2, which is 100, so 106, then 106 times by 2, 6 times 2 is 12, and 100 times 2 is 212. Final answer. Which number is divisible by both 5 and 10 The answer is 40. Again, I think the hard part there is knowing what divisible means you can divide it. Another way of saying which number is a multiple of both 5 and 40. So multiple is the other keyword that's similar, meaning is in the times table. So 40 is both in the 5 times table and in the 10 times table. Mr. Miller's supermarket bill is £17 and 3 pennies. At the checkout, he uses some vouchers to reduce his bill. So what is his total bill? So again, this is subtraction. 1703, take away 145. Again, there's some borrowing needing to go on. So again, I want to borrow from the 3. So I can't do 3 take away 5, so I need to borrow, but I can't borrow from the 0. So I now need to go and borrow from the pound. So break that down to £6, which will free up 100 pennies. And now from here, I can then free up another 10. So that's a multiple step where you have to reduce from 2 places. But now I've got 13 take away 5, and that leaves me with 8p. I've then got 9 take away 4, which leaves me with 5, so 58 pennies. And then 6 take away 1 is 5, and the £10 remains. So £15, 58p. Final answer. Question 7. A newspaper shows temperatures. Which was the coldest? So that's the largest negative number. So again, if you always think of yourself as a number line, the coldest is going to be the biggest number down here. So obviously you've got minus 10, minus 5, 0, 5, for example. So the colder it goes, the larger the negative number. Of course, the hotter, the larger the positive number. So I think that's the mistake they're trying to trick you with. And if we look here, Edinburgh at minus 7 is the biggest negative number, therefore the coldest. Right, which answer has 3 numbers that are all multiples of 3 or 4? So we're all in the 3 or 4 times table. So because it says 3 or 4, obviously that's a multiple of 4, that's a multiple of 3 and 4, that's a multiple of 4. So because of the or, that qualifies. And if we look, we can also eliminate not 10, not 10, not 14, because 14 isn't a multiple of either 3 or 4, not 14. So you could do this by eliminating or by affirmation. What I would probably have done is eliminated A, eliminated B, and then finally checked C and stopped there once I was fine and happy. Remember guys, and means they would all have to be both, so would have to be things like 12 multiples of 12, whereas both 3 and 4, but or can mean it can be either 4 or 3. It doesn't have to be both. I think that's the trap there. Number 9, which of these letters has 2 lines of symmetry? Well, it's the I, because you could fold it in half this way, but you could also fold it in half that way, and it's quite hard to see that one with my drawing on top, but you could fold it over and you'd end up with the same shape. So you need to have those 2 folds. We'll do a dotted line so we can see it a bit clearer. So there are 2 folds, 2 lines of symmetry. Number 10. Sarah collected the following data during a survey of her friends. There were 100 people in total, so fill in the missing area. Well, there's a few ways of doing this. We could total, for example, the number of boys is going to be 28. Well, in fact, no. Tell you what, here's I think the easiest way of doing it. Rather than totaling, I'm saying the total number is 100, and all of these categories make up that 100. So if I just simply take away all of these numbers, I'll end up getting there. So I'm going to take away the 20 and the 10 at the same time. That's taking away 30, so I'm now at 70. I'm now going to take away, we might as well do the 38. So for that one, I'm going to take away 30 again with an add on 2. So that gets me down to 42. So I've taken that away now, and I need to take away 6 and 14, but I'm going to do those together. If I add those together, that's 20. So if I take away 20, that gets me down to 22. So that means there are 22 people left. I think that's the easiest way of doing it. So the 100 was the total, and each time I'm just taking away all of these numbers, just crossing them out as I go. Number 11. I bought 8 small packets of sweets. I was given £2.40 change. How much did each packet cost? Oh, good question. So let's work out first off what all 8 were. So the total cost of 8 will be £10, take away £2.40. Let's just do that off on the side. So I'm going to do £10 take away 2 gets me to £8. Then £8 take away 40p gets me to £7.60. So my total, if I can show you, my total cost is £7.60. Let me just clean that up and make it look. So £7.60. And so what I now need to do is divide the fact that all 8 packages cost £7.60. So let's divide that total by 8. So 8 into 7 goes in 0 times. 8 into then carry that 7 into 76 goes in 9 times. And for this, actually, guys, I am going to just get rid of, because I want it in pennies, I'm going to get rid of my decimal because I don't want to have a decimal answer, because I can see my options here are pennies. Sorry, 8 goes in 9 times to make 72. The difference then between 72 and 76 is 4, so that's the remainder. And then 8 into 40 go 5 times. So my answer is 95p. Remember, of course, we're dividing pounds, so the answer will be pennies. So for this one, Ranjit has a 50p piece and 2 20p pieces, a 10p piece and 2 2p pennies. How much money does he have? So again, this is an addition. 50 and 2 20s. I would be tempted to do that in my head and say 2 20s is 40. A 10p piece and 2 2 pennies. And again, 2 2 pennies I can work out as 4. And that just speeds up my addition. So now I've got, I'm spotting as well, look, 40 plus 10 is 50. So it's 50 plus 50, which is a pound, and 4p. So £1 and 4p, I can get pretty much there in one go. And that's just by simplifying wherever possible with my addition. This machine doubles, then adds 2. So it times it by 2, then it adds 2. Just writing that down as a reminder. Which number has been put in? Okay, well, if I ended up with this, I want to go in reverse. So let's start by doing 114, and we do the opposite. So take away 2, which is 112. And then the opposite of times by 2 is divide by 2. So it'll be 112 divided by 2, which is going to be half of 12 is 6, and half of 100 is 50. So 56 is my answer, which is coincidentally my favourite number. 14. School books are being packed in separate parcels, each one containing 6 books. How many parcels are needed for 960 books? So what we're saying is, to get a total of 960, how many times will 6 fit into there? So that is a division. So 960 divided by 6, and whatever the answer is will be the number. So 6's into 9 go once, remainder 3. 6's into 36 go in 6 times. 6's into 0 go 0 times 160. Again, whenever I have a division, 9 times out of 10 I'm going to reach for that bus stop because it's just so useful. It works in all cases. Right, number 15. Name the sports at these coordinates. 2, 6. The important things, remember, it goes along the corridor, then up the stairs, always in that order. So across 2, and up 6, that's cricket. So already I can eliminate these ones. It's between C and D. And then we've got name the sport, so 3, 5, so across 3, up 5, football. And that already tells me the answer is C, but let's just check. 0, 4, across is nothing, up 4, rugby. So cricket, football, and rugby were the answers, making it C. Remember, along the corridor, up the stairs. 16. A garden looks after 100 flower beds. She plants 412 bulbs. How many does she plant? So in this one, it's going to be 412 multiplied by 100. I think the trick, the easy thing to remember is essentially it transfers the zeros. So 4, 1, 2, 0, 0. Another way of thinking it is, sorry, if you do 4, 1, 2 decimal point, it's going to move the decimal point. There were 2 zeros here. It's going to move the decimal point 2 places behind. So there's my decimal point now. There's a few ways of visualizing that one. Number 17, batteries cost 89 pence each. How much will 7 batteries cost? So you set this up as a, oh, sorry, that's not addition, it's a multiplication. So it's a column multiplication. So 7 times 9, the easiest way to do the 9 times table in my mind is to do the 10 times table, so 70, and then take away 1, so 63. So carry the 6 right down the 3. And then 7 times 8, and again, some people learn this. Having said that, if we just did 7 times 9 and we got 63, if we take away another 7, we drop down to 56, which is the answer. And again, I've got to remember it's 56 plus 6, so that becomes not 56, but 62. And again, remembering if the decimal is here, the decimal could be here. Because of course, if we want to have it as pounds, I might make that £0 and 89 pence, and it keeps my decimal working out for me quite nicely. So final answer, £6.23, and I'll always rewrite it with the pound sign. Number 18, Tom has drawn a triangle, he reflects it in the mirror line. He ends up with a quadrilateral. What type of quadrilateral? Well, you could do a little sketch here. That is a kite. And again, in terms of parallelogram, it must have 2 sets of parallel lines. That's not my parallelogram. Let's try and draw a better one. Just remember our definitions. 2 sets of parallel lines. A trapezium needs to have 1 set of parallel lines. Looks like that's a trapeze stand. A rhombus is, if you imagined it was a square that has been sort of pushed over. So again, a rhombus has the sets of parallel lines, but a bit like the square, all the sides are the same length. And a kite obviously has no sets of parallel lines, but it has 2 matching lengths. So these 2 are the same length as these 2 are the same length. There's your definitions for your shapes that are worth knowing. Right, number 19. This graph shows the multiplication tables. The 3 lines start at 2, 3, and 4. So 2 times 2 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, I think I understand how it works. If a line starts at 5, what height will it reach on the y-axis? So let's have a look. So we do the 5 times table. That would be here. So 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. And 5 times 5 is 25. So since that's the highest number, 25 is where it will meet on the y-axis, because this is the y-axis up here. And if you had a ruler, you could nicely rule it off, but I don't think we need to for our purposes today. 20. Paul draws a plan of his school using a scale of 2 centimeters to 5 meters. So again, 2 centimeters to 5 meters. Again, it's just worth saying, well, this is the P for plan and R for real. So on the plan, the school hall is 6 centimeters long. So now I ask myself, well, okay, I went from here to here. How much bigger is it? It was 3 times bigger. To go from 2 to times 3 is 6, so it's 3 times bigger. So the change is going to be the same here. So if it's 5 meters, it was 2 centimeters, this is going to be 3 times bigger as well. So 15 meters. And that means the answer is 15. 15 meters, I should say. 21. Which of these solid shapes has 5 faces and 9 edges? Remember, a face is the front part, so this is the face of my square, or my rectangle, I should say. And then an edge, I draw it, would be this, for example. This would be an edge. These would be edges. And the last one that's missing in this example, the corners are called the vertexes, and they're worth learning as well. So I think we're just going to go through and try and eliminate some things. So I know that my cube doesn't, because I actually know that I've already learned that a cube has 6 faces and 12 edges, so it's not that one. Let's say a cuboid, again, it's actually going to be the same number as a square. So that's right, the cuboid and the cube will have the same, not that one. So 5 faces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the bottom one 5. Sounds good to me. But now we need edges, so we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So not that one. Triangular pyramid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not that one. So let's check this triangular prism at the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the base 5. So that is 5 faces. That's looking good. And in terms of edges, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there is my answer D. And again with this one, I think scribbling, dotting, counting, however you do, best way of doing it, and then just eliminating accordingly. 22, this graph shows a sports ground. Where's the netball pitch? The netball pitch is along the corridor 3, so we can eliminate all the ones that don't have a 3 in the first position, and then up 1.5. So that position is halfway between 1 and 2, so it's going to be 1.5. So the y-axis is 1.5. So it's a combination of along 3, up 1.5. So 3, 1.5. 23. Oh my goodness. Balbe wants to guide a robot along a white square through the maze. It can only move forward, right, or left. Which instructions? So forward 3. Well, so first off, I can eliminate. So forward 4. 1, 2, 3, crash 4. So not A. Forward 3 works. Turn right, crash. So it can't be this one. So it goes wrong there. Forward 3. Let's check this one. Forward 3, tick. Turn left 90, tick. Forward 1, tick. Turn right 90, tick. Forward 2, tick. Turn right, tick. Forward 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So with that one, I think just checking each instruction, eliminating until you find the right answer, gets you to see best. And notice how I was sort of drawing the route and sort of adding the little dots for each instruction and then ticking them off. That made it really easy for me to keep track. And then finally, last two questions, 24 and 25. How many matchsticks are needed to make the next shape? So there's a few ways of doing this. I think it might be worth trying to spot the pattern. So how much more is added on each time? So we had 3 matchsticks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 matchsticks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 matchsticks. So what's it increasing by each time? This one went up by 6 from 3 to 9, and then this one went up by 9. So I have a feeling the increase here, because if we look at what's the increase increasing by, so 6, 9, so I think we're going to have 12 this time, and 18 plus 12 gets us to 30. Now, this is quite a common pattern. It's probably one that's worth learning and just committing to memory. But of course, I've also shown you how you can work out by what we call working out the difference and then working out the difference of the differences. So actually, I've spotted that the difference now, so if I do in green, the difference from here to here is plus 3. So the new difference will also be plus 3. And that's how you can work out a lot of shapes, either by the first difference or what we call the second difference. You could also, with this one, especially if there was a lot of time left, and this is one where you might sort of leave it to the end, you could also have drawn it and counted it. Although I'm not sure I'd advise that as a first port of call because it doesn't sound very efficient to me. Because just drawing would take a long while and it could go wrong. 25. You multiply a number by itself. So that means I've got something squared. That's what multiplying by itself means. The answer is then multiplied by the number I started with. I've used x's, but so it's something times itself times that number. And whatever that equals is 64. Now what's interesting is actually by the way I've set it out here, I know using algebra that I can actually simplify that to say x times by itself 3 times, or x, if you don't like x, it'll be question mark, equals 64. And I now then, in order to find out what x is, I have to do the cube root. Or basically, what number times by itself 3 times gets you to 64? And the answer in this case is 4 times 4 times 4 equals 64. And it's a bit of a strange way of writing, but if you think an answer is multiplied by itself, so 4 times 4, and it's multiplied by the number you started with, which is 4. So they could have just said times the number by itself 3 times, but no, they were trying to be a bit tricky. And with this one, I know I've jumped straight to 4 times 4, but I would have probably just checked 2 times 2 times 2. Well, that gets you to 8, so it's not that one. I'd have then obviously tried 4, but I think with all of these, quite rapidly you'd be able to see that they're getting too large. So 6 times 6 is 36, or 36 doubled is already bigger than 64, so it can't be that one, and it can't be 6, it can't be the rest. And that would lead you to then hopefully working out 4. But I think the hardest part here is certainly understanding what it means. So that's one way of showing it algebraically. I will show you another one just to show you, because I know this is the last question, so we might as well go into a bit of detail. So it's something multiplied by itself. So it's something times by something. And that number is multiplied, whatever that is. So all of that is multiplied by the same starting number. But again, what you realize is all of these are the same. So again, we're looking for the same number. In this case, that's where our answer obviously came from. 4 times 4 times 4. Hopefully that helps. Bit of a nasty question, I think, 25, but we got there. Right, guys, and then that is the test. So really well done. Give yourself, please, a score out of 25. We will come back and finish this at a later date, I'm sure. Remember, if you have any questions, really important you come down to one of the Q&As where I can help you out, or you get in contact with one of your tutors and send them a picture of the question so they can get a more detailed explanation. But I hope this video is useful, and I hope you did really, really well. I will just leave you with this, the homework. So for me in particular, it's this maths. I want you to complete the assessment, so it's the remaining 26 to 50 questions. And of course, we'll have the answers for that ready for you next week. And again, there's another you could that can be done. One thing I'll remind you as well for Chris, don't forget that from next week, the spellings need to start happening. The spellings need to start happening. Right, everyone, thank you so much for your time. I hope it was useful. Stay happy, stay safe, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.